As a huge fan of older games, it's always great to see titles from the 80s, 90s and 2000s getting a re-release. The trouble is when you see poor quality re-releases like the Raiden Fighters Remix Collection and the recent Rayman 30th Anniversary Edition, the only thing that springs to mind is a cash grab. While I'd quite like to cover the recent disaster that was Digital Eclipse Rayman 30th Anniversary Edition, I'm not paying the full price, as it's missing the original music and the superior Sega Saturn version of the game. However, for Raiden Fighters fans, it seems the curse of Raiden Fighters in Europe has struck again. Hello dear viewers, my name is Random Gamer Riven, editor of Randomised Gaming. In today's video I'll be looking at the few pros and the many cons of the new Raiden Fighters Remix Collection on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. Now why do I say Raiden Fighters is cursed in Europe? Well, that's because we never got Raiden Fighters Aces on the Xbox 360. A port of all three games that was released in both America and Japan, but sadly never in Europe. Publisher Trade West claimed they'd obtained the rights to release it in Europe, but went under shortly afterwards. Sadly, those 2010 European release dates listed on Game FAQs are the planned dates that never actually happened. German publisher DTP Entertainment AG also tried to release it 2 years later in 2012, getting so far submitting it to PEGI for a 12+ rating and a planned April 20th 2012 release date, only for the company to end up filing for insolvency in April and closing later that year. As the game was region locked on Xbox 360, it made importing it rather troublesome, so it's one of the few games I've never owned on the system alongside Raiden 4, Operation Darkness and Concept Saga. The best I could do back in the day was download the North American demo and play that, in the vain hope it would be picked up for release in Europe. Raiden Fighter Aces, like the new Remix Collection, contained all three of the Raiden Fighters arcade games released by Saibu Kaihatsu. The 1996 Raiden Fighters, the 1997 Raiden Fighters 2 and the 1998 Raiden Fighters Jet. Now while all three games would have been the perfect fit for the Sega Saturn back in the 90s, Saibu Kaihatsu were rather rubbish at porting their games and never did, with the studio said to have disbanded in 1998. However, many of its developers would go on to form the company MOS. Despite the Raiden Fighter series being great arcade shooters, it's clear they weren't big successes at the time. I never recall seeing them once in UK arcades, and by the late 90s 3D titles were all the rage, with arcade owners passing up many great 2D titles. The genre had also fallen out of favour in arcades as well, which didn't help matters, and the lack of home ports did little to help the series either. In fact, it wouldn't be until Raiden Fighter Aces in 2008 that we finally got a home version. Now Aces wasn't a perfect port. It, like the Remix Collection and the derided Rayman Legacy on mobile and PC, is clearly based on MAME's emulation, which even now isn't perfect, so keep that in mind if you want to pick up the 360 version. The Remix Collection has two types of releases. You can buy the collection of all three games at $24.99 on PlayStation and $26.99 on Switch, or you can buy the Remix game individually at $8.99 on PlayStation and £10 on Switch. Yes, the Nintendo tax is real. However, from the get-go, I will advise people to not buy the individual ones, as the collection shares features like the background wallpaper across all three games, something I suspect you won't be able to do in the single versions. The only reason to get them all is if you're a trophy hunter on PlayStation. So what are the positives from this new release? Well, we finally have a European console release of the series. Outside of the speed problem, the emulation is better than that seen in previous releases. However, it is the complete lack of options that causes this release of the game to be worse than the Xbox 360 Aces collection. Now, the big problem with this release, and the most complained about online, is the lack of frame rate options. Something the Aces collection did very well by giving you a range of speed options to choose from. The original arcade PCB board runs at 53.98 Hz, and the Aces release allowed you to select a range of video modes at 53.98 Hz or play the game at a faster 60 Hz speed. The problem is playing the game at 60 Hz makes the game incredibly hard as it's running 6 frames faster each second. Let me just show you how much impact it has on the gameplay by playing these two clips side by side. Left is MAME at the original speed, right is Remix that only offers a 60 frames a second mode. The reason for doing a 60 FPS mode is largely to keep the game running smoothly on modern consoles, as some newer systems can't handle older frame rates below 60 frames a second correctly and have to add in static frames to make the speed up to 60 frames per second. This results in a stutter-judder issue in scrolling planes that would have originally been smooth on a CRT TV. Case in point, this issue can be seen in the Amiga versions of the Turrican games in the newer In Games anthology collections, as they originally ran at 50 frames a second. It's an option that should be available as an alternative, but in the Remix collection you are stuck with 60 frames a second mode only. Trust me when I say this makes later stages brutal, and I do mean brutally hard. Good luck getting to the true final boss in Raiden Fighters Jet at this speed. As you can see from this footage, it makes the game faster and harder, with the main footage getting more and more behind as it's running at the original PCB speed. Added to this is the fact there is some controller lag in this port, which I explained more about in my look at the recent Mortal Kombat collection, giving you a port that only the very best players in the world have a chance at finishing, as you just don't have time to react. There's been some suggestion the controller lag is around 6 frames a second on some versions. Another issue you can see is the colour imbalance between the two videos. While I don't have an original PCB to compare, and you're lucky if you do, the remix version has the colour saturation and contrast set far stronger than the main footage. So if you want to match it closer, you'll have to heavily adjust your TV settings or the capture card settings, as I did in this adjusted footage showing just now, to show something with a better colour match. The watercolour here is far too dark by default, for example, obscuring both the shadows of the planes and background trees, which can be clearly seen in the main footage. The lack of options doesn't just end with the speed settings either, as many dip switches from the original arcades are missing. For example, the original arcade PCBs allow the player to have up to 9 ship lives. The custom mode in this version only allows a maximum of 6. The option to turn on and off restart on the final stage is also missing for all games, as are all the credit adjustment dip switches. Raiden Fighters 2 and Jet also had the option to turn on a special mode, which you selected after inserting a credit. This special mode is a boss rush, and this mode now has to be oddly unlocked by completing the game first. Something that's virtually impossible on the default settings, as the developers decided that the main game mode in this version would be limited to 3 credits and 3 lives per credit, making a full run of both loops very, very tricky. So your only options to try and unlock this extra is either set the game to custom mode, set lives and bombs to 6 and unlock stages as you progress, restarting from the highest stage you've unlocked if you lose all 3 credits. Yes, even custom mode is locked to 3 credits and you cannot adjust that setting. Still, this rather janky method is how I beat Raiden Fighters Jet and cleared all stages from both loops. In doing so, you unlock free play and boss rush mode. Ironically, this means 2 of the best features you can use to train yourself on the game are locked out until you do. Something that isn't very helpful for many players. If you're wondering, the original arcade allowed you to have up to 9 credits at any one time and had a dip switch to enable 3 play. Or you can try beating the game on the new practice mode maybe. This is a new mode that removes all bullets from the screen, apart from some in the second loop, making it pretty useless and challenge free. Still, for many players it'll be the only way you'll be unlocking the final stages and true last boss in Raiden Fighters Jet. A slow motion mode, rewind feature or save states would be far better training features. Some M2 games in the shot trigger range featured section training on each stage, which really was a great feature. But there is nothing like that here. The game advertises modern gameplay features, but I don't really see any. The Aces collection had a special stage arrangement that allowed you to play all the Raiden Fighter Jet stages in order, something not possible in the arcade version as the stages change based on your performance. Again, that's a feature not in this version at present. Another issue with this collection is that unlocked stages and modes don't carry over between the English and Japanese versions of each game. Wallpapers and remix soundtracks do carry over, but everything else has to be unlocked twice on the same game. Ugh. The remix music is also done in a bit of a strange way, as you have to unlock each track in-game one by one before you can swap the entire soundtrack to the new remixed version. While I'm all for extra unlockables in-game, something that's pretty rare these days in the DLC era, the remix music really should be available from the start in my view, but this is one perhaps more a personal opinion. There's also a very limited selection of display options, and you can't have pixel perfect aspect either, as MAME allows. The result is a somewhat uneven picture with a scrolling shimmer in some places, compared to how it looks in MAME. Full screen rotation is on offer here thankfully, but the scanline options are very weak, 2 of which demo a broken CRT with a phasing line bar going across it. Why anyone would want to use it is beyond me. And while many people will also call it heresy, the option to stretch the image to full widescreen should also be included. Yes, it makes the picture look awful, but some modern LED TVs don't like static screen images or blank images, and manufacturers warn against them. Really, this should fall under a first party check to ensure this type of content is included by default. Some additional screen filter options wouldn't go amiss either. Another odd feature of the game is the fact the option to restart a title is locked out when playing normal mode. It's only available in custom mode, so if you die on the first stage and want to restart, you have to quit the game and then restart it. Which just seems odd when you have an option called restart. The Raiden Fighters are all great games, but this release falls very short of the quality you would expect. To be honest, I think these would have been better released as arcade archives via Hamster, who have already released a number of the previous Raiden and Seibu Kaihatsu arcade games, including the original Raiden and the excellent Viper Phase 1. As the latter uses the same hardware board, I am surprised Hamster didn't do the Raiden Fighter games. The fact many of the arcade's original dip switches and options are missing is just unacceptable. While I had hoped this release would be a straight port of Raiden Fighters Aces, it seems that version is likely in license jail, as Success published that version under license from MOS or Seibu Kaihatsu, while the game was developed by Goltai, who in 2017 were purchased by a company called Kayak and are now part of their games arm. Moss have said they're preparing a patch for the speed issues, but this collection in truth needs a major overhaul of all its modes and options. It also seems Moss have licensed the game to H2 Interactive, a South Korean publisher. Supposedly Moss are the developers, but based on the state this released in, it seems this was rushed to market. As it stands, if you still own and play your copy of Raiden Fighter Aces on the Xbox 360, then you're better off sticking with that. They are still great games, and this is the first official console release of them in Europe. If you do still want to pick up the Remix Collection, just be aware of the issues you will find in it. I have still been enjoying playing it on PS5, but this is far from an ideal experience, and one that means I won't really try and master the game due to all the lag and speed issues at present with this version. For that, I'll stick to MAME and its flawed emulation. Here's hoping all the above and more is addressed in the patches, but so far I haven't been that impressed with Moss's statement on the issues, as it seems like they didn't even check the Remix Collection against the original PCBs, something your studio should be doing from the get-go when developing a title based on emulation. That's all I've got to say. I have been Random Gamer Riven, and as always, if you enjoy our videos here at Randomised Gaming, please do hit the like and subscribe buttons. Do check out our other videos on the channel, and as always, I wish you a good morning, afternoon, evening or night wherever you are in the world today.